Hello, welcome back to my channel. I'm Danielle Hollenbach. If you're new here, hi, hello. I'm a mom of two with a third baby boy on the way. I'm 23 weeks pregnant today, which is crazy to think about. But I also am a traveling, working mom. So I do work from home. I work remotely, but with that, I still work. It's a full-time job. And my job does require me to travel quite a bit. So I thought it could be helpful to many moms out there to make a video about how to not feel guilt when you are traveling as a mom, which is very hard, and tips to make it a little bit easier for you. So let's jump right into things. So I'm actually traveling right now. I had a work trip, a training, and honestly, this December, I'm going to be traveling again in about 3 or 4 days. I leave on another trip for 4 days, then I'm home for a week, and then I leave for another 4-day trip. So this has been the busiest, craziest month I've had in a while. But I do have months where I'm traveling about 4 to 5 days out of the month. I personally do love traveling for work. I have a lot of fun at the events that I do, but it is hard to leave the kids. These are things that I have done to just make it a little bit easier when I leave. So let's get into tip number one. Tip number one is to prep all things for your children before you leave. So when I leave town, I always lay out a pair of clothes for every day for the kids with their underwear, diapers, socks, whatever. So literally their full outfits all there. Now that it's winter, I make sure that my husband knows where their boots are, their hats, coats, gloves, everything are, so that he can basically take them anywhere and he's just ready to go, go, go. He doesn't have to look for things because, you know, it's if your husband's like mine, he's pretty good with keeping things in order, but there's always a few things he just doesn't know where they are. So don't make him guess. Don't make him guess about these things. If they're going to be watched by someone else, which typically my parents also watch them, I'll give them a lot of warning about, hey, this is when my trips are. You know, what days can you watch them? How can we organize our schedules? So just prepping to make sure the kids have a place to go and that everything's in place. Even snacks, I make sure that I stock up on a lot of snacks for the kids when I'm gone. Number two, don't just have one person entrusted with your kids. So Eric is their primary caregiver when I'm gone. Usually when I'm at home, he still does a lot of the watching of the kids while I'm working all day. He works too, but he's just a little more flexible with hours. He doesn't have as many hours that he does work. I'm usually pretty swamped throughout the entire workday. So he knows how to raise and watch the kids. Love it. I mean, he's awesome. He's an awesome dad. But I know it's a lot to have to watch kids for a 24-hour span and do everything. So thankfully, my parents usually will watch them at least a couple days that I'm gone if it's an extended trip. So they already watch them every Tuesday, Thursday, always. Like that's just the schedule. But they'll add an extra day in there just to give Eric a break and also to let Eric do work because, he still works too. So it's nice to give him time where he doesn't just have to work during nap time or when kids go to bed or try to make phone calls with kids, playing. It makes it a little bit more difficult. So having someone else be able to also watch them besides, just the one person who's like the primary caregiver when you're gone, super helpful. I hope you have that because the more people you have that you can trust, just the easier it is when you are out of town. Number three, and this is probably the hardest one, don't feel guilt when you are gone. This is something that took me a long time to get over. As the kids have gotten a little older, it's easier to be like, okay, I gotta do what I gotta do. This is for work, it's just how we're making our livelihood to like raise the kids and give them good lives. But when they're babies, it was very hard for me to leave because I was thinking every milestone, I have to be there every day so I can see what was happening, how they were developing. Honestly, if you're gone for just a couple days, in the grand scheme of things, what does it really matter? You can feel guilty, especially right when you get on that plane on your way out. It's very easy to feel guilty, think about them a lot. When you're in the thick of it and you're just doing work and really focused on work, that's really the way I kind of let the guilt go away a little bit more because I'm like, okay, I'm here for a reason. If I'm going to be gone 4 days, let's really make those days count. I'm out of town to, advance my career, advance my company. Sure, let's, make sure that we're actually doing the goal that we're supposed to be doing here instead of just thinking about how much I miss my kids. It was harder to do too when I was breastfeeding because I had to pump all the time. So when you're pumping, you're like, man, I wish I was just with my kids because it's a lot easier to just go and feed the baby. So my last child, I nursed him until about 16 months, which that was a very long time. And I had a lot of work travel in that time. That was a little more difficult because I did have to pump basically up until about 11, 12 months because I was still producing so much. So that makes things a little harder, is you think about them more because you have to pump, and it's also just like another task you have to do. It's just so much easier when you're in town, and you can, you know, choose to pump or feed depending on what you want to do. It's hard to forget about that guilt, but you got to do it. And, you know, remember your purpose and your reason why you're out of town and make the most of that time. Number 4, plan a time that you are going to call, text, video chat, whatever it is, with your kids, your husband, whoever's watching them. Just make sure that you have that in place. Like with my husband, I usually call him before I do anything with the day, so in the morning. He's always up early, the kids are up early. I'm up early, I'll usually exercise, and then just right after I run, give him a call. And then we just get about a half an hour in the morning to talk to each other and see, okay, what's the day gonna look like? Am I gonna have a chance to call you at lunch? Am I gonna have a chance to call you tonight? Most of the time, I'll try to plan in 3 calls a day. Sometimes at some events, I mean, it's nonstop. So I might not call Eric until 10 o'clock at night, my time, which depending on where I am in the country, that could be later than him or earlier than him. So in that way, it can make things a little difficult, but he usually does stay up late for my call, which is super sweet. Or he'll text me and be like, hey, I'm going to bed. If you can call me now, you know, let's talk for just a few minutes before we go to bed. He'll give me like the wrap up of the day. If the kids are still up, I can talk to them. Usually at night they're asleep because I just call later at night. But yeah, it's just nice to know like this is when we're gonna be calling. I'll usually text him throughout the day and just see when he can get back with me, and vice versa when I can get back with him. And it makes things a lot easier because I don't feel like I'm so disconnected from them because I'm still communicating with them, seeing them. A lot of times I do the video call so I can actually see the babies, and it's just sweet to get a little connection throughout the day. Number 5, remember it is just a short period of time. As I said in the last, couple tips ago, you are here for a reason, you are working for a reason, you are traveling for a reason. Focus on that reason and remember that when you get home, you're gonna have hours, days, months to be with your kids before you're gonna travel again. That's not always the case. Sometimes you're traveling back to back, but make the most out of the time you actually have with them and get as much done at your hotel as you possibly can. So when you go home, you actually can spend a little extra time with the kids and, make those moments up that you might have missed. Yeah, just plan that time accordingly and make the most out of your time because, hey, I'd much rather spend the time here doing work than when I'm at home. Well, I hope you enjoyed these top 5 tips to make traveling a little bit easier when you have kids. I mean, trust me, it gets easier as you do it more and more. And if you really love your job and love what you're doing, that also makes it easier because, hey, you're here for a reason. You love your job, you're making good money, and you want to support your family. It's always what I keep in my mind is I'm here for a reason. Make the most of this time. If you like this video, give it a like, subscribe to my channel for more content like this, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.